Hey, Dr. Roos, I'm making this video for my biology lab, Biology 1. This is spring of 25, but I'll be using it for future labs too. So just ignore the dates if I mention any in here if you're not in if you're not here on that section in that semester. So first thing I wanted to mention is how important lab scores are and the two practicals that you get right in lab. They're worth, both of them are both 100 points. Just like in class, you have 100 points and 5 exams, right? So it's a total of 700 points. You've got to do well on the practical to do well in the class, right? It's a combination of the two. Now this is the form we use, right, for lab to put your answers on, right? I just want to make it clear when you do this, right, you're going to be, there's 100 blanks, 100 questions. Now some of the questions might be quiz questions, like the last 10 might be multiple choice quiz questions that you had during the lab. But most of them, you're just going to see an image and then there'll be questions that you need to answer about that image. So I want to kind of go over what to expect for that. So this would be what you'd see in the content section. There's a practical for, or a PowerPoint for practical 1, and there's a PowerPoint for practical 2. I added this this semester. It's called unlabeled practical figures, right? Which just means, right, they are the images that are from that PowerPoint I just showed you for practical 1. These images you should recognize, right, when you right, what? Because you'll say you get to a station and you'll see this image, right? And it'll ask you, what's the name of this organism, right? And then it'll say, well, what domain is it in? Or what kingdom is it in, right? And if you don't know what organism is, it's hard to answer any of the questions about it, okay? So use this, right? Before you take the practical, you should be able to go through this and tell me, like, right, for the instance, the next one, or what's the name of this organism, or what's this represent, right? This is what test, right? Which one's positive? What test is this? What do you call that test? You should know the 5 parts of the microscope that I have on the PowerPoint, right? What's the name of this organism? So they're all listed, right? And it's from this the lab PowerPoint. Dialysis tubing, right? You'll see this image, and then I'll expect you to be able to answer questions about the information found here. Or, right, these are called gelatin tubes, right? They're not test tubes. We use this to measure diffusion, right? And then tell me what effect does molecular weight have on diffusion, or the temperature have on diffusion, right? You should know what plasmolysis is for Elladia. You know, all these arrows are pointing to, most of them are organelles, except for the black one here is, that's the centrosome, which is a structure, but you should be able to identify them. This would help you, right? They're not labeled, but you be sure you label these during the lab that you've taken. If you don't have them labeled, you can come by my office before or after class, and I'll tell you what they are. But you'll be asked those specific, right, on the practical, right? So if you don't know them, you're not going to do well, right? You should know, you should be able to give me an example of a plant-only structure or a plant-only organelle, right? Those could be asked, right? Don't worry about the yeast. There's one on the amoeba, right? The amoeba is pink. That's probably a way of remembering that. Paramecium, they have hair-like structures. So if there's a question about hair-like structures, well, no, I don't have many, then it has to be this organism, the paramecium that we're asking about. You should know the eukarya is the domain, protista is the kingdom that it belongs to, right? Anabina, this is one of the few that are in the domain bacteria, right? It's not in the eukarya domain. There's no kingdom with this, okay? But Anabina is the name of that organism. I think on the enzyme lab, there's the station there contains a graph of absorbance versus time that you made for your lab report. If you haven't completed that before you take the practical, you might not recognize that as something that pertains to this particular lab. Then you might get a question about what's the substrate, what's the product called, right? You're going to have to be able to write them down on that answer sheet, right? Now the mock practical, this here answer sheet, the mock practical has 5 stations that you might see on the practical, and you could just write down a sheet of paper, try to answer the questions and see how well the more you write these words down that you need to know, the better you'll do when you take this practical, right? You can do very, the scores could be very low. That's the problem with the practical, right? You won't, on these online exams, that won't happen, but it can happen on the practical. So anyway, that's the intention of this, just to let you know where everything is, what to expect, and good luck with it.